What should Auburn's expectations be against New Mexico?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We'll jump into game predictions with Jake Crane, host of Crane & Company, hanging out with us, and as well as what should Auburn fans expect. But Jake, your thoughts on this quarterback drama? I mean, what are you expecting from Payton Thorne and Hank Brown participation-wise as Auburn hosts New Mexico on Saturday?
Well, I mean, first off, Zach, as usual, buddy, thanks for having me. It's kind of like I said when I came on the post-game show, your post-game show. This is what is happening is exactly what we said was going to happen. You split the reps up in practice. Obviously, Payton Thorne is the greatest practice player of all time, so he's probably going to have a better practice. You put him out there for, and Hugh Freeze talked about the short leash. I said it's probably going to be a half, right? If it's awful, maybe a quarter. But at least by opening it up in practice, you show the locker room, hey, you don't play well. We're going to open it up. And if somebody outperforms you in practice, then they're going to play. The problem is, I don't know if what Auburn has behind Payton Thorne, at least obviously not to this point, or he'd have been replaced, is better. We don't know enough about Hank Brown in the game because some guys practice better than they play. Some guys play better than they practice, just like some people finish first in their class in law school and they go in a courtroom, they don't know what to do. We see it in all walks of life, not just sports. So Payton Thorne's going to be put out there. New Mexico's bad on defense, right? And, he'll probably look pretty good. And then you move forward. But the fact that we're even to this point with a senior quarterback, and the best way, I think, we've talked about it ad nauseum, right? Like, we all know the problems, and it's not just on Payton Thorne. Auburn has other problems, but I think the best way, maybe the most concise way to put it is, at this point, Payton Thorne should be making up for other deficiencies. The roster shouldn't be having to make up for your fifth-year senior quarterback's deficiencies while he makes freshman mistakes and panics in the pocket. Like, that's just where we're at. So they'll throw him out there. They'll probably run the ball heavy against New Mexico. That's what I'm thinking they're going to do. And to all the people that question the play calling, especially in the first half offensively from Auburn, I do want to make one point, Zach. Let's not forget, and this makes it even worse to me, talking about the way that Payton played the rest of the game. Auburn came out that first drive, and I know you had that one that looked like it was going to be a defensive touchdown wherever the ball hit the ground. Outside of that, they were on point. They were on time. They were on rhythm. They looked great in the passing game. So I understand why Hugh Freeze was like, God, we're ripping these guys in the passing game. Yeah, they came back and scored. Let's go rip them again. But the fact you can go from the extreme of looking really, really good, talking about Payton Thorne and the offense in general, to looking absolutely horrible for the rest of the game, that was shocking. But at the end of the day, we know who Payton Thorne is, man. Like, nobody should be surprised at this. This is why everybody's worried about the portal quarterback situation, including Hugh Freeze to a certain extent.
If you're Hugh Freeze, at what point of the game do you put Hank Brown in?
Well, it just depends how it goes. Like, that's why I don't. And I said this about Florida's
so you don't go in there with a plan. You don't say, okay, Payton,
I don't think
you got the first two drives, and Hank, we're going to go to you for a few series.
To me, that's the worst way to do it, because if you go out there and you're cooking for two drives, and then you're like, all right, we're going to put another guy in, well, that's detrimental to what's happening on the field. Like,
but doesn't that eliminate somebody kind of like looking over their shoulder?
It does. I mean, look, I coached for a guy. It's funny you brought that up. I coached for a guy, the head coach, that played quarterback at a very high level, was in a quarterback battle with another guy, and the head coach told him right before they went out in the field, right, literally before not on Friday, not on Thursday, hey, man, you got the first two drives. Regardless of how it goes, we're going to put the other guy in. What? What if we're just absolutely blistering them down the field and everybody's playing well? What needs to happen is what's going to happen. Payton Thorne's going to go out there. They're going to give him ample time in that first half to see how it goes. If it's just going okay and they're moving the ball a little bit but not doing well, or it's going poorly, you put Hank Brown in there. If you go out and the offense looks great, 3, 4, 5 drives, whatever it is in the first half, you leave him out there because you can defend that, Zach, to the players. See, this isn't about what the fans think. Forget about what the fans think. The problem Hugh Freeze has is if Payton Thorne keeps playing bad and you don't replace him, you lose all credibility with the locker room, because how can you ever replace anybody else? How can you ever say, left guard, you're not playing well, we got to replace you? Well, the quarterback can play awful. You don't replace him. So at least by opening it up in practice and by putting them out there in the field and letting meritocracy happen, even though we shouldn't be talking about meritocracy with a fifth-year senior quarterback, this is where Auburn finds himself. That's the best way to do it, and that's what I think he's going to do. Predetermined drives, that never works.
Interesting. Yeah. So to me, I guess my question here is, if that's the case, how short is the leash for Payton? If he doesn't score in the first 2 drives, do you pull him? If he throws like his second pass is a blatant incompletion where he just misses a guy, do you replace him the drive after that? Like, how short is this leash?
Well, that's why looking at box scores sometimes, I always say, like, the box score is like a trailer for a movie. It'll tell you a little bit about what's going to happen, but it's not going to tell you everything. And sometimes the trailer ends up being better than the movie. It's really how it looks. Like, if Payton Thorne is operating the offense well, making good decisions with the ball in the RPO game, and he's putting the ball where guys can catch it and making right decisions, and they're not catching it, that's not on him. Now, you may have to put somebody else out there just because that's where we're at. But in your mind, you know whether the quarterback's playing well or not just by completions and guys are making plays, because you know when there's a drop, you know when somebody is missing an assignment, you know when the run game's not working and you're one-dimensional. So again, it's very circumstantial, and it's throughout a drive, not a play, right? Like, if he goes out on first down, it's a play action, and he makes a bad throw and it's incomplete, they're not going to pull him out after the first play. You let that drive happen, and then you make the change, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it. No question. I mean, to me, that's the story of the game. What should fan expectations be this weekend? We jump into that in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is what brings home championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks to LED headlights and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has you covered. Over 122 million parts. Are you kidding me? 122 million parts. They've got the eBay Guaranteed Fit, so the part is guaranteed to fit your ride or you get your money back. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Factor. Factor meals are delicious. You can fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. You can meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto. You can treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off the next month. That is code LockedOnCollege50, all one word, no spaces. LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50. Thanks to Factor for sponsoring today's show. Jake Crane of Crane & Company hanging out with us. Auburn is a 28-point favorite against New Mexico. Where are you feeling on this one? Is 28 points the right number? Does Auburn win by more than 4 touchdowns on Saturday?
Well, I mean, I think it's hard to pull the trigger on Auburn beating anybody outside of a SWAC team by 4 touchdowns right now, not just because the offense struggled overall against Cal. It's that this New Mexico offense is pretty good. Like, Dan Pierre, you watch him, he's a pretty good player.
He's dynamic.
He can give it to you both ways. And Auburn, defensively made some great adjustments in the second half against Cal. But where they're the most deficient, believe it or not, is in the back end on the defensive side. So it's not, to me, it's not, can Auburn cover the 28 because New Mexico's defense is bad and they're going to score a lot of points. Or maybe the offense for Auburn doesn't play good, which if they don't play good against New Mexico, then it's even worse than what we thought after last week. Can Auburn stop New Mexico enough from scoring enough points to cover that 28.5 or 28? To me, I think the smart bet, I'm not going to bet this game because betting Auburn games is,
But if you had to, what are you doing?
If I had to, I would buy New Mexico State up to plus 28.5. That's what I would take. Because, I mean, again, you can beat them 42-17 and cover. Like, you can dominate the game, but think New Mexico is going to be able to move the ball a little bit. Now, when they get in the red zone, we're really going to find out. But Dampier can escape pressure a lot too. And Auburn's going to get back there. It's just tougher to get him down. This is where you need guys like Folk and Crawford and all these guys to use that athleticism, change the direction, and get him on the ground. But I don't know how right now you wouldn't take New Mexico plus 28.5. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope Auburn wins 75-0.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great for sure. The Auburn defending Dampier, mobile quarterback dynamic. From a pass rushing standpoint and a staying in your lane and keeping contained, which they did not do well against Cal, is this a good thing for Auburn because they play Taylon Green in Arkansas next week? Is this an opportunity to kind of get reps against a dynamic quarterback because they don't really have that in practice right now?
Yeah. It's a silver lining. I'd rather play a quarterback that's awful and can't move. Because again,
but that's not an option. Sadly,
right? Yeah, I know, right? It never seems to be. Yeah, it'll get you more prepared. Now Taylon's a little bit more dynamic, right? I think he's a better thrower of the ball. He's obviously a bigger guy. I think he's a little bit faster once he gets going. He's a long strider. So yeah, you can't rush past this guy. You got to make him beat you from the pocket. He's diet Thomas Castellanos at Boston College. That's what he is. If you want a good comp, if you're a football junkie like we are, you know who I'm talking about. So yeah, it's you got to be disciplined, right? And he's a guy that you have to make beat you from the pocket. Like if he's able to create, he's a lot better improviser than he is method actor, right? So you want to make him have to be a method actor, have to stay on script, have to stay in the pocket. And plus it closes the space. You don't have to be a geometry major to understand it's easier to tackle a guy in the pocket than he is when he gets out. Because he's going to get out some. Like, you're not going to keep him in there the whole time, but you just try and limit the amount of times he's able to get out.
Yeah, I want to see, like, we talked so much about Jalen McLeod and Kieran Crawford, Auburn's edge defenders, all fall camp about how dynamic they were going to be. And to me, I haven't been impressed with either of them yet.
Falk's the best pass rusher we got, and Asante. To me, Asante is the guy if you're going to spy him, you got to put Eugene on him. I know he's cold-blooded, but yeah, it's been a little bit of a disappointment so far as the depth and the breadth of the ability for Auburn to rush the passer from multiple guys. Falk sure looks good, though. They didn't miss on that one.
No, they didn't. Yeah, I want to see Kieran always seems to be. It's like he's reacting too much instead of like doing what he wants, like what he's asked to do as far as keeping containment. He's always like cheating inside, and like they've got to fix that. That's a big deal.
That's really a huge deal.
Yeah, and like you probably can do that in the Sun Belt a little bit, but you can't do that anymore. Can't do that anymore. And so to me, it's like the pressure was there a lot better in the second half against Cal. I think they really adjusted nicely. I think Malik Blockton playing more is probably an answer. They didn't miss on that one either. But yeah, we heard so much about their ability to rush the passer and fall. And outside of Keldrick, we haven't seen that consistently. So to me, that's the biggest thing that I'm looking at.
Yeah, well, you brought in these mercenaries to do that. That's literally the main reason that you brought him in. And yeah, on Blockton, that roughing the passer the call was absolutely horrific.
But so you just like you can't do it.
Yeah,
like,
you can't. But like again, if you playing that position, like it's just nobody really knows what roughing the passer truly is anymore.
That
it's
kind of targeting.
Like
it's like what are they?
It's like how was the one on Jarquez not targeting, but the other one is like it just. Again, that the refs didn't cost Auburn that game, but yeah, the young guys are the ones that have played well. It's the older guys that you brought in that aren't. That seems to be the theme of this Auburn team. That's about where they're at, which, I guess I'd rather be young and good and the future be brighter and get the older guys out. But they've got to start playing better.
Yeah, because the question is, how are you going to replace all these guys after the season? And it's like, you may not have to. Just let these guys grow up. That might be the answer, which is what Hugh Freeze would like, because recruiting seems to be the thing that's moving best in this program right now. Jay, give me a quick score for Saturday and then tell everybody how they can check out everything you've got going on.
Yeah, give me Auburn 41-20. I think it's a 21-point win. Okay. Again, I think it's going to be impossible to feel great about Payton Thorne after this game just because New Mexico is really bad on defense. It's just the truth of the matter. So yeah, give me 41-20 Auburn. And we're going to have another week of, all right, it's here we go with Payton Thorne again. Can you do it at home against Arkansas? Yeah. So again, and I want to say this too really quick, Zach, anybody that thinks Hugh Freeze doesn't need to be the coach at Auburn, you're doing too much. Like it's unfortunate that we're in this position. You missed on quarterback 2 years in a row, but it's a long-term thing. Hugh Freeze is going to get Auburn right. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. I mean, the way he's started to build this program or rebuild it has been from the ground up. It's not a microwave and fix kind of thing. This is, with recruiting, this is a crock pot meal. This is going to take a long time, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it when it comes up. So how can people check out everything you've got going on, bud?
Yeah, man, really easy. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that jazz, Roku. It's Crain & Company, CRAIN and Company, live 2 to 3:30 p.m. Central. Talking a lot of Auburn, college football in general. Got a fun weekend ahead. Come hang out with us, live calls, live chat. And let's have some fun talking about the sport we love, even though it rips our guts out all the time.
Yeah, it does. But that's why we love it. So.
Exactly.
Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.